Ape Escape is a game that I think needs to come back. And because of a very specific recent title that was released, I think that now is the perfect time for the apes to escape once more. What's up, guys? My name is Canadian Guy A. I'm a gaming sleuth, YouTuber, and journalist. If you don't know, many of my theories, observations, investigations, and discoveries have been featured in a number of articles online from many different news outlets. And today, we're going to be diving into a classic title from the PS1 era, Ape Escape. Now, I'll be the first to say, I am not a pro at Ape Escape like I typically am with Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon when it comes to certain information. But nonetheless, I am still a fan of the franchise and I hope to see it do well. So I want to put on my detective hat and go on the hunt for some details and hints towards a brand new Ape Escape title. Could it be coming back? Is there any evidence? Are there rumors? And are any of them true? Let's find out. Can we use this as a detective hat? Does it work? Now, if you're unfamiliar with Ape Escape, it was first launched on the PS1 and was the game that was specifically paired with the shiny new dual-stick, dual-shock controllers from PlayStation. Basically, you couldn't really play Ape Escape if you didn't have these new controllers because the game was made as basically a giant demonstration of what the new dual-stick controllers could do. It's funny now because the sticks were originally used to choose the direction that you could use for the different tools to trap the various apes that were running around, and not camera movements that we typically use them for exclusively today. But the gist is, an albino ape named Spectre had gotten his hands on a peak point helmet, or Pippo helmet. According to the wiki, the helmet increases the ape's intelligence by approximately 300%. Spectre then decides to rally the apes and break out of the ape park, and he begins a new age of apes. We're going to be saying apes a lot in this video. Let's maybe have an ape counter or something. He mass produces these helmets and gives them to his new ape army. Next, Spectre breaks into a lab where the professor, who's one of the main characters, is working on a time machine. Spectre uses this machine to send his ape army back in time to destroy any trace of man-made advancement and to wipe out all of mankind with it. Spike, our main character, is sent back in time to each period where the apes are and has to trap them with a gadget that the professor has given him, called the Time Net. Basically, if Spike traps an ape with it, it brings it back to the present time. Spike now must clean up Spectre's mess, for the sake of humanity. So now that you were caught up on Ape Escape, let's go to my findings. And at first, it wasn't good. It wasn't because I didn't find something. I certainly did find something, just that it wasn't good news initially. So the first thing I always do when it comes to sleuthing out information about game titles that were established many years ago and are considered as now nostalgic is I look up anniversaries. Depending on the game, you want to start at around the 10-year anniversary, sometimes the 5-year anniversary, depending on how modern it is. But typically we start at 10 years and increase it by 5 years. So we go from 10, 15, 20, 25 years, etc. The reason we do this is because anniversaries are always a great place to start in terms of announcements or teases, or maybe the developers making comments about the franchise and it being worked on currently. As always, we start by looking for anything public, whether it's tweets, YouTube posts, references, etc., from any official sources during these anniversary years. So because Ape Escape came out in 1999, it actually means that 2024, the year that this video is coming out, is Ape Escape's 25th anniversary. So is there anything that's going on in 2024? And the answer is yes. But for context, we actually need to rewind and go to the 20th anniversary. So back in 2019. Don't worry though, we'll be right back. In 2019, there was an account made called Pippozaru 20th. Now, before we continue, I have to let you know that Ape Escape originates from a Japanese-based studio, so many of the tweets will be roughly translated, and some of the things that we call over here will likely be called something else over in Japan. For example, Pippozaru, I believe, roughly translates to the Pippo monkeys that we see running around in spike traps. Anyway, this account with no verification had popped up. Now, at first, people could not tell if this was a legit account or not, especially since, at the time, verification meant everything on Twitter. How quickly that's changed. But when the verified Sony Japan account actually followed this one very soon after it opened, that was enough verification for people to assume that it was real. One of the first posts the account made said this, quote, "It's been 20 years since then. I've been running away, but I wonder if there's anyone chasing me anymore." This, of course, stirred up Ape Escape fans and started to get them excited. Was this finally the start of what would be the comeback of Ape Escape? Well, actually, I think it was. Keyword here, was. This is reinforced by a post 6 months later on New Year's Eve on the same account, celebrating the upcoming year for 2020. Hold the jokes, they are coming. The post says, quote, "Happy New Year. We hope to bring you lots of exciting and wonderful information this year too." So it kind of spells out an assumption that they're going to be bringing out information about, well, what we assume to be Ape Escape in 2020, which of course that would mean, assuming that they would be announcing a brand new game for it, right? Well, let's keep going. Throughout 2020, this account continued to post about Ape Escape, from random funny art to fan art and more. But what happened in 2020? I seem to have forgotten the horrors that dumpster fire was and what it did to the world and the gaming industry and everything in between. On June 23rd, 2020, the account posted this art with this tweet saying, quote, "Thank you so much for spending this year with us during our 20th anniversary. For future information related to Sarugetsu, Ape Escape, please check the official SIE Japan Studio account." This would be the final tweet that this account would post. Now, the account they referred to was Sony's Japan Studio, the original company behind the Ape Escape series. Essentially, they were shuttering this Twitter account and were redirecting fans to Sony's Japan Twitter's account. Then, 7 months later after this post, in February 2021, Sony announced that they would be shutting down Japan Studio and that its members would either be let go or relocated. Yeah, that is less than ideal. However, while Japan Studio was shut down, all the remaining staff members that remained after and weren't taken away to anywhere were relocated to Asobi, a newer studio that was actually originally a branch off of Japan Studio. Now, I did more digging and came across an article from Video Games Chronicle by Andy Robinson and Alex Calvin. This article was, to my knowledge, one of the first that broke the news officially that Japan Studio was being reorganized. However, according to this post, a source stated that, quote, "One person VGC spoke to said that Japan Studio's fate had been sealed over a year ago, following the departure of its longtime president, Alan Becker, who was replaced by Astrobot Rescue Mission Director Nicholas Doucette, allegedly due to frustration over the developer's lack of hits." The article also corroborated and quoted a Bloomberg article that was posted back in November 2020 that stated that most of Japanese-based Sony studios were being sidelined for the launch of the PlayStation 5, and that many of them would not have their rolling contracts renewed in the following year. Based on all this information, let me tell you my deduction. There was likely an Ape Escape in development at Japan Studio, perhaps started in 2019, or maybe even as early as 2018. That's just a guess. This would make sense, as 2018 was when the Spyro Reignited trilogy was announced, and was on the heels of the release of Crash Bandicoot's Insane trilogy, which we knew at the time and even now is and was wildly successful. These games likely helped the decision of maybe bringing back Ape Escape to hop on to that PS1 nostalgic trend. The plan was likely to start advertising and teasing a game being in development during its 20th anniversary year, hence why this account was made in the first place. However, as we drew closer to 2020, Japan Studios' fate was seemingly doomed in the minds of the PlayStation executives, but was not yet official. PlayStation Japan let everyone know that in 2020 they would be bringing us more information about Ape Escape. However, 2020 happened, which of course no one expected. And, the world was basically on fire. So this likely caused certain executives to expedite the shuttering of certain studios and to use the pandemic as an excuse to get them closed faster. One of the studios on the chopping block was, unfortunately, Sony's Japan studio. This would mean that, well, if Japan studio gets canned, so would all the projects that they were likely working on, or any of the projects that were in very early iterations, which would include Ape Escape. Now again, this is my deduction based on this information that I have shown. So, was an Ape Escape title canceled? Kinda? Sorta? The project wasn't canceled per se due to people thinking that it wouldn't do well, or Sony saying, no, we don't want this project, but due to Sony restructuring everything and using the pandemic to expedite the process. But nonetheless, the end is the same. There was a project, and now there's not. But I said that there was something good in this video, and there is. A year before Japan Studio was shut down, Nicholas Doucette was elected as director of the studio, meaning when he came in, Ape Escape was still likely in some form of early iteration and or development. Now, why is this important? Well, when Japan Studio was, quote-unquote, restructured, Team Asobi basically absorbed the remaining members, including Nicholas Doucette. Here's where we get to some of the more positive things. If you've been living under a rock, Astrobot had recently launched and has already claimed Game of the Year status for many people, including myself. Astrobot was developed by Team Asobi, who housed the remnants of Japan Studio. Can you guess who was the director of the most recent Astrobot? You guessed it, Nicholas Doucette. Now, as you play through the game, it is jam-packed with references to PlayStation. But what you might not know is that there are specific levels that are dedicated to certain IPs within the PlayStation brand, changing the gameplay of Astrobot to something that is closer to the specific game that is being referenced. The very first level that does this is called Apes on the Loose, where you find Spike chasing a Pippo monkey. Spike passes his time net to you, and Astro becomes Spike. The rest of the level is an ode and dedication to Ape Escape, as Astro Spike now has to find a whole group of apes using gameplay that was akin to the original Ape Escape titles. After capturing all the apes, when you return to the main crash site, there is a dedicated area that is specifically for all the characters from the Ape Escape series. Now, this makes complete sense, as Asobi's ties go right back to Sony's Japan studio, who were the creators of the original Ape Escape. The likelihood is that because the project was unplugged early, they still want to show some love to the IP for the 25th anniversary for 2024. Remember how I said earlier that we'd be back? Well, here it is. But I think this is probably more important than you might initially think. Astrobot is a very special game that is also in a very special situation. It can put older games that many people in the current generation that may have never played before or even heard of on display. Whether it's through its references, special VIP bots, or through these themed levels. If anything, these themed levels are the biggest displays to push more people to check out these other games within the PlayStation universe. And Astrobot has literally catapulted itself into the limelight with its most recent game, scoring a 94 out of 100 on Metacritic and easily becoming many people's favorite game of the year. As more and more people hear about Astrobot, talk about Astrobot, post about Astrobot, they're going to want to try it out. And then more people are going to be introduced and exposed to this new dedicated Ape Escape level and therefore Ape Escape itself. And because of that dedicated level, I think there is a case to say that Ape Escape could actually make a legitimate comeback. Astrobot has shown that with the right studio behind it and the right environment, a platformer-esque masterclass of a game outside of Nintendo Studios can be made. Now, does this mean that Team Asobi would be the team behind this brand new Ape Escape? Not necessarily. Another team outside of Asobi could handle the title. However, Astrobot can be used as a precedent and example to pitch a brand new title and to get that title approved by PlayStation. Astrobot has already shown that it is a masterclass of a platforming game, and in that masterclass is already the blueprints and DNA of a modern Ape Escape, as there's literally a dedicated level that could be used as a tech demo for a brand new modern title. Additionally, Astrobot was made with utilizing all the features that the DualSense controller has, trying to show off every aspect of it and what it can do, which, when done right, makes the game feel so much more. The DualSense controller has genuinely been the biggest step up in controller tech in the PlayStation line of consoles since the original DualShock Dual Stick controller. And what game was used to show the tech of that original Dual Stick controller? Ape Escape. It's a perfect roundabout way to release a brand new Ape Escape that utilizes all the aspects of the DualSense controller with modern controls in mind. Astrobot doesn't have to be the only game that utilizes all of the DualSense controller's features, as many games are actually not utilizing all of them, and it's not coming to its full potential. But a brand new Ape Escape with the DualSense controller and a modern twist sounds like an absolute blast to me. Now, would this be a remake, a remaster, a reboot? I don't know, and I don't care. I just want to see Ape Escape come back in some way, shape, or form in a modern era with a DualSense controller. And the thing is, Astrobot may not be exclusively the key to Ape Escape, but to many other games as well. This game contains secrets that will legitimately blow your mind and might even help more games like Ape Escape go into development. If you want to hear about the secrets of Astrobot and what games could be made because of it being out, you gotta check this video out right here. You're not going to want to miss it.